First off, for those few of you who are not familiar with marijuananews.com, first commercial, it proves that anybody can do a website. And that's an important thing in itself, because what we're talking about here is the democratization and the disintermediation of the communication process in this country. That we no longer have to rely solely on what our lords and masters choose to feed us, that we can find out the truth for ourselves. It's all out there. And let me give you a couple of examples of that. The Salon magazine, hats off to them because they did get the story out about the drug czar's payola. But I had it on Marijuana News almost 2 years ago because the New York Times advertising column reported the deal. There is very little that goes on in this country that is really secret. It's all there if you can find it. We don't have to worry very much about censorship because they do censorship by cacophony. They play the Muzak so loudly that you can say whatever you want to because nobody can hear you. This is where the internet comes in, and that is that if people look and know to look, you can find it. As they say on the X-Files, truth is out there, and it really is. And this is our medium, and it's one of the key reasons why now we are winning. And this is something that is enormously important in our ability to communicate with one another. The normal website, the other anti-prohibitionist websites on the net. That people can use as resources to find out what is really going on, find out the facts, and then write to their editors and representatives, elected representatives, and let the voice of freedom be heard this way. And this is really changing everything. Now, one of the index pages I have over there I want to do is headed media criticism, and probably a lot more should be indexed that way because I do this almost on a daily basis in terms of deconstructing the reporting of things or the lack of reporting on various issues. And an easy example of this is the Washington Post. Just a few examples from this enormously influential newspaper. When the drug czar went to Holland in summer of 1998 and said that the Dutch murder rate was twice that of the United States, when in fact it is about 20% of that in the United States, this incredible lie, which was pointed out to the drug czar, which he never acknowledged, except to laugh about it, was in fact the drug czar had lied to the American people about the successful policies of an allied country, one of the oldest allies of the United States. The Amsterdam bankers lent money to the United Colonies during the Revolution. And John Paul Jones spoke of the kindness of the Dutch people in helping resupply ships. Our drug czar goes and lies to hide about a successful drugs policy. Now imagine if Alan Greenspan went and lied about the Dutch economy, which happens to be one of the healthiest in Europe. But that would be news. It would certainly make the business news if Alan Greenspan was caught with a bald-faced lie about the Dutch economy. The Washington Post reported that the drug czar had simply mitigated his criticism afterwards. It never reported that he had lied about the Dutch policies. Another example is when the House of Lords Science Committee came out in favor of medical marijuana and said that people who were seriously ill should be given immediate access to medical marijuana. How did the Washington Post report this? A little inside of the paper, I think at page 829 on November 12, 1998, there's a little section, the headline, "Britain rules out legalized marijuana." Because the Blair government had rejected the House of Lords report. I mean, that is about as dishonest as you can get. Now, if you read the article, you gather from it House of Lords had in fact recommended this, and the headline was "Written Rules Out, Legalizing." And then it's constantly fed to us on an article that was both hilarious and tragic at the same time. On September 7th of 1999, the Post had an article with the subhead, "Parents Should Tell the Truth About Drug Use." And then they go on to say how much more potent marijuana is, and we know so much more about the dangers of marijuana than we did back in the 70s when we all thought it was harmless. I mean, this is setting up, to protect children, to help parents, help the parents of this area, the readers of the Washington Post, who really do have a need and a concern about how to warn their children about the dangers of substance abuse. And so under the guise of tell the truth, the Washington Post gives them lies to tell. Now what could do more to undermine family, to undermine the credibility of all drug education, and so incidentally, to undermine the credibility of journalism in general, than to have the leading newspaper of the capital of the leader of the free world, the world's superpower, Supernarc, lying to its own readers about something as fundamental and simple as this. And this is just one paper. It goes on every place all the time. Now, if the editors of these papers get letters saying, "You lied to us again. Marijuana potency, in fact, has not increased," and you can cite data to prove that, then they begin eventually to pay attention. The Washington Post has actually come out now sort of in favor of medical marijuana, after having ignored it for a very long time. Now this is real progress, and they begin eventually to listen. And you can see this going on and watching this thing very closely over the last couple of years that I've been doing this website. I have seen real progress in the reporting of the marijuana issue. And this is no accident. It's because of real things that real people are doing. The passage of the medical marijuana initiative has made an enormous difference. Even the Washington Post finds it eventually cannot ignore the people. When I was national director, it was in '94, we were in the first National Medical Marijuana Day. We had people, medical marijuana users, in the National Press Club, and the Edward R. Murrow. In the video, old enough to remember Murrow, he always appeared on television with a cigarette in his hand. We had complaints that people were smoking pot in the Edward R. Murrow room, which I thought the borough would find deliciously ironic. But then we went down and we had people in wheelchairs, people on crutches, and people from all over the country picketing the White House. There was not one mention of that in any of the media of DEA land. Not one mention. Now this wouldn't happen. I think that it would play out differently today. It would be on 829, the Washington Post, with under the header, "The U.S. government protects legalized marijuana," but they might report it. Now, this is the role of the internet, is that you can be creators of media if you want to, the way I am, but all of you, whether you like it or not, are consumers of and or victims of what has been going on. Quote myself, the best two-word explanation for marijuana prohibition is bad journalism.
Right.
They have lied to us, they are lying to us, they're lying about us if we are marijuana users, and this affects all of us. Just as anti-Semitism threatens those of us who are not Jewish. We've seen what happened to a great nation like Germany because someone could use lies and hatred to seize power. And what it ultimately did to a great nation. We can see here in the United States, as Lady Joseph was talking this morning about the damage to the Bill of Rights done by chipping away at it. And so many of these cases that have happened have been in fact marijuana cases. And all of the American people are victims of this. And none of this would have happened from the beginning of marijuana prohibition with Hearst yellow journalism to today with the Washington Post telling parents to lie if the watchdogs of freedom in fact had not become drug-sniffing dogs of the drug czar. Now, all of you are empowered to do something about